Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it's April 39th. April Fools! It's April 1st, 2024 and welcome to our show. So today we have on Jeff Buongiorno and Shayne Snavely. And I'm going to read some of the background on Shayne so we can welcome him on like appropriately and get to start the show started. So Shayne is a service-connected Army veteran. He's been a state and federal government contractor for many years, so he's kind of on the inside here. He has started and run many businesses over the last 30 years and was team lead and senior legislative aide to Virginia State Senator Amanda Chase for 14 months and helped run her 2021 bid for Virginia governor. After Senator Chase lost the convention, he then supported and worked to help Governor Glen Youngkin, Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, yay, we like those guys, and Attorney General Jason, I don't know how to say his last name, Miyares, get elected. He was senior advisor to Virginia State Senator Bryce Reeves until the end of 2023, and he is now working on numerous political projects on the state and federal level. He's a founding partner of Rainmaker Strategic Partners, a campaign consulting company, and executive protective services, a personal protection company. Well, that's good. In the crazy world we got right now, we need as much protection as we can get out there. So, morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Morning, guys.
Morning,
my shop living.
Yeah.
My bio? No, only kidding.
So I need you to tell the great, because I was like Jeff got on this morning and I said, I love your last name. It's like, Jeff, hello. And so we were talking about where you got your last name from, and I was hoping that people could get to know you as also a candidate in the state of Florida. Where did you get Buongiorno from?
Well, as the story has it, my great grandfather, he was brought to Ellis Island from Italy, and he was a skilled mason, a laborer, a bricklayer, very good with his hands. And they needed it was merit based back then, novel concept. And they brought him to Ellis Island. He couldn't speak a word of English, and they said name and papers. And he kept saying he was so happy to be there. He's Buongiorno, Buongiorno, saying good morning. So they gave him the last name Buongiorno, and then they stamped the paperwork WOP, without papers, and that's where the derogatory term for an Italian came, was WOP, W-O-P, without papers.
Well, that's a fun story. I think that's a great story. Well, my grandfather was in Chicago and he had a cement factory, so we can make a whole lot of conclusions out of that one too. So
yeah,
kind of fun. So what are we talking about this morning, gentlemen? You guys always have interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, well, elections, right? It's 4 years after the 2020 steal, and I'm under the impression that not much progress has been made. And just one quick little story. Shayne and I, that's how we met, was working on election integrity at we met at the Mike Lindell Cyber Symposium back in August of 2022. And right?
21.
Right?
Was it 21?
21, yeah.
Yeah, 21.
Right. Yep. So we were we've been through a lot together on election integrity, and we're looking at this from all angles, and we've been talking about the threats, what CISA's role in the steal, and not only censorship, which basically all of the censorship that they pulled during 2020 really bodes well for removing or somehow disjoining CISA from the election process. Obviously, it's an agency whose director is under impeachment by the House of Representatives, but yet we continue to fund CISA. And it really doesn't make sense how you're going to indict the director under criminal charges and then you vote to fund the very agency which he runs. I'll give you an example. On February 21st, an executive order was signed by Biden stating that CISA has now overarching authority over the maritime traffic in our port. And 35 days later, we have the bridge collapse, and there's great speculation. In my opinion, the GPS was was hacked, and it steered the ship into the pillar that took the bridge down. And what a lot of people don't know is this is the second bridge that this, it's not even a shipping cargo, it's a war vessel. It took down an identical bridge, identical in structure in Belgium a few years back. And that ship is banned in many ports. So, to say that this is not, a state-sponsored terrorist attack in less than 8 hours, which is the FBI's position, it's just, it just proves that there's some there.
Yeah, and I've got some questions.
You're in that area, right? Is that impacting, the air, Virginia, Baltimore, Maryland? Like, how's that working out so far?
Yeah, and from what I understand, there's several redundancies that even if the power goes out, they should not have lost their steering. They had backup generators, everything failed, which is sort of suspicious.
Yeah, in my opinion, that was a reboot. And sorry, Donna, one quick thing. That was a reboot, and it allowed them to kind of force that signal of the spoofed GPS signal that led them to that pillar. And if you really want to connect the dots, what happened with that China spy balloon, right? Did it? I think from my knowledge, and I'm not an expert on GPS and how it works, but it's scrambled to a degree where you're only between 10 and 100 yards of accuracy. So what did that Chinese spy balloon do? I mean, did it really get the exact coordinates that they needed to plug into the GPS to take the bridge down and maybe use those coordinates for other attacks? I mean, think about how it traversed and where it wound up, right? Off the coast of, I think, North Carolina. So it definitely, went right over that area. And we know that it had internet connectivity. An American, U.S. company gave it internet connection. So it was definitely gathering data. We took it down great, but, the data was already gleaned.
You're jumping around.
They have another thing. These ships, they're not guided, they're not manned and steered by the captains of the ship. When they get into these harbors, they have special captains that come on that do that every day in those harbors. And so that was one of the guys that was running this. So the likelihood of him messing up is really not even there.
Well, I have a screenshot I shared on Twitter of the two pilots that were on the ship. Now, I'm not sure if they were the pilot. No, that's another screenshot. I don't have this one up. We're going to hold that for later. What we found was the pilot, the second pilot, is from the Ukraine, and he signed his contract on February 19th of 2024. The Bangladesh pilots, he's been piloting that ship for about 3 years, so he's experienced. But, they signed this executive order giving CISA authority over maritime traffic on February 21st. On February 19th, you have this new pilot from the Ukraine who signs a contract to pilot the ship. And right about that same time, you have Angela Chow, who drowned in a mysterious death right around the time that executive order was signed. And she is directly involved in the shipping industry. She wasn't the CEO of the company that owned the Dali, but I know the shipping industry. I've worked for some of their clients in some projects, and it's a very tight-knit industry. So just trying to connect the dots. Maybe word got out to Mitch McConnell. He was against it, and then he resigned. Remember, he didn't resign, but he stated that he would not run for a leadership role in the Senate. And then his sister-in-law died, and then 35 days later, this tragedy or attack occurs. And also, Lara Logan posted last night an article from a local paper in Baltimore that they defunded shortly before the attack on the bridge. They defunded the local Baltimore Harbor Police, who have been, patrolling that harbor since like 1860.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she broke that last night.
This is some crazy stuff going on there. You look at the path that the ship took, and it looks like it took a turn at 2 minutes before impact. straight towards the bridge. There was no drifting, so when people say they lost power, it doesn't look like they lost it, because it's like there's like a straight trajectory right to that pier at the bottom. I have a lot of questions on this whole thing, because none of it's really making sense. And I'm going to bring up something else that as someone who is used to being around and being involved in large projects and such, anybody worth their salt would be able to cut that bridge up and get those shipping lanes open in 2 weeks. So for them to say that it's going to take a whole year to open up the shipping lanes, I'm sitting here going, under what universe of incompetence does this work?
Yeah, and we also have some of our naval vessels are confined behind the down bridge. But the power did go out. You could see the lights go out, and I believe that was a reboot. And that's when upon reboot, the spoofed GPS was picked up, because you could see it rebooted and it started to go right for the bridge, and then you could see the diesel smoke coming out of the exhaust of the vessel, which apparently, and you see trucks when they shift into neutral, diesel trucks, you get that puff of black smoke. I believe that they pushed. They went from forward into neutral, and they were trying to reverse course and get and back up, but they were already traveling with all that weight at 12 knots an hour or 8 knots an hour. It wasn't impossible. And that bridge, those pillars were just, that was built right before they. A friend of mine is an engineer. He works for a large engineering firm, and it's the running joke that they're going to get that contract. They probably will. That's what they do. They're civil engineers. But the ships over the years have increased in size and technology, and where the bridge was stuck with 1970s technology, and those pillars just they can't sustain the impact of a vessel of that size with that much weight behind it.
Well, what I know is that I think about 75 to 78% of all of the bridges in the United States right now will not pass test. That should be really sobering to look at what's happening with the fake President Biden, or whatever he is, that that whole administration. That should be concerning to all of us, because he's got lots of money to ship to everywhere else, but where's the money to keep our transportation lanes open in the United States? That there should be more money to go into that sort of infrastructure to ensure the safety of Americans, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're going to see now they see the vulnerability. And once they see the vulnerability, now it's going to be a big push to try to secure a lot of these bridges. But to me, my experience in the military was I was an explosives and weapons guy, but we did a lot of bridge, blowing up bridges and blowing up things. And that was one of my thing was explosives. And, I get to thinking how easy this was. I mean, you get 3 or 4 bridges across the country, that's the ultimate terrorist attack, especially if you get them near ports.
Yeah, and that's the main port for coffee coming into the United States, to my understanding, is that's where most of our coffee is coming through. Mm-hmm. So I think a great indicator of that's going to be watching the prices of coffee. There seems to be like a little bit of a delay here. Sorry. See if Jeff catches up here a minute. Hello, Jeff.
The thing is, I want to pull up a clip if you give me a minute.
Yeah. Why is it though that somebody would say it's going to be a whole year to get the shipping lanes open? Nobody can answer that question to me, no matter which direction you want to go into, whether you believe the explosion was real or whether it was fake, or the stuff on top of the bridge. It seems kind of a little crazy to me, but I don't understand why they can't get those shipping lanes open. If they want to, they could.
Yeah. Well,
you got to back that one out that you have currently and here, remove. If I remove it, let's see, let me remove that one. And then if you take that down and then put a new window up, you'll be able to move it on the screen.
So what screen am I sharing now?
No. So remember we had a problem with that before, and
No.
I'm thinking you have
Yeah,
to
every
go
time I do
back
this, I
and
get into a problem.
choose a window or something.
All right, so we'll give that a minute, and we'll give that a minute, and basically, so I don't lose you.
Hey, welcome to live video here. This is real news for real people, by real people at the kitchen table. Well, kind of. It was, but now we're in an office. So little studio thing going
All
on
right,
here.
so
Almost there.
my StreamYard link. Let's see.
Go to present, Windows, choose the window you want.
No, when I hit this link. So why don't you guys give me a minute to come back in, because I lost the control window is gone when I hit this link. So I'm gonna bounce out and come back in.
Okay, cool.
Give me a
So
minute.
let's talk about some of the stuff you've done, Shayne.
Well, I've done. I've been heavy into politics for a good many years. I've really about 30, but heavily with the last 5 years or so. And like Jeff was saying, we met in the election integrity circuit, and I've been to the. I was at in the Arizona in the Coliseum. I was there. I walked the floor for the audit. I was just invited to do that. I was invited back by the Senate president in Arizona for when they did the reveal in the Senate. I've been involved with the Doug Mastriano stuff. I met Carrie Lake way before, before she'd even announced she was running for governor. Mark Fincham, all the big election integrity people around the country I've been involved with. I've been in a lot of different meetings. What I always talk about when people say, well, on the audit, that made to look like it was a scam and it wasn't done right, and it was a setup. And my main thing I always talk about is on that I had, I talked to every different process of that audit. And one of the things that came that just stuck out that nobody really, I don't even think they did a lot of media attention on it, but you could see the stacks of when they pulled them out of the boxes, the stacks of the ballots, and it was plain as day. You could see like sometimes there would be an inch or 2 inches, half inch of a different color ballot. You could tell the difference in the paper. And then I asked them, I said, what's this? And they said, well, those are mail-in ballots. And they said, but here's the interesting thing. They put, they had a microscope. They had 3 different cameras set up. They could look at the paper. They could look at the ink on the paper. They could look at the folds. And they said, this is an interesting thing. All these ballots are supposed to be mail-in ballots, but none of them have any fold marks. Even if you look under a microscope, it was never folded. And I always thought that was an interesting thing because, President Trump lost Arizona by 10,400, 800 votes, something like that. It was less than 11,000 votes. And also in that, there was 17,000 documented, 17,000, a little over 17,000 duplicate ballots that was actually documented that was the case. So, when people just talk about a lot of this, they really don't know the background. When you're talking about a state that has millions of votes and they lose by 10,400, I think it was 488, something like that. And then you see this kind of stuff, just the duplicate ballots, which changed the election.
It's kind of absurd. I mean, the whole thing is absurd. And so I think I keep coming back to the fact that the legislatures need to be removed because they allowed these elections to be certified. How come we're not hearing people in the legislature scream about this? They want to, bring out like the Board of Elections or the Board of Canvassers here in Michigan and such, but they passed it off. The legislature, walked away from their duty to ensure that they could have put a stop in place. They could have said, no, there's too many things wrong. We need to investigate, or we need to have redo this election because there was enough question on it. And I mean, that was from day one. And it's just gotten worse from there, how all of the cheating and the nonsense. And I think you could pick out one of any 10 things that were wrong, and it would be enough to have grounds for decertifying the election.
Mm-hmm.
There seems to not be a lot of appetite for that, even with Republicans, in the Republican circles. And I think a lot of it was, Mike Lindell's, Jeff and I have been through some things with him. And, he boasted that for years that Trump's going to be back in office this day, Trump's going to be in office that day. And then he has the symposium and he doesn't show any evidence of all the stuff he was talking about for 6 months. And so, Jeff and I sort of have a theory that there might be some misinformation being put out on purpose or something to make the election integrity calls look like it's a joke versus really looking at the facts. And that's one of the things that Jeff does. Jeff looks at all the facts, looks at all the data, and and that's something that he's very, very good at. One of the best that I've seen. And I've been all over the country with it.
I would agree with that. It's like everything you bring to the table, Jeff, and the people you bring in here are serious investigators. So when I saw that Lindell had Tim Vetter and Fani on stage, and this is a real concern here because they took some information which Election Integrity Force had paid for with Scott Ogney and such, and they developed a for-profit company using somebody else's data that they paid for, and I have some real problems with this.
I have more. My big issue is, election integrity needs to be looked at and needs to be really a bipartisan thing. But I think behind the scenes they're purposely having a lot of these fools come out and just makes it look bad, makes it look like a joke. And one of my big issues is especially around the election integrity circuit, the Lindell stuff, all these people. You've got these guys that Jeff and I have known for probably 4 years that they go around, they charge $5,000 to come in, they give the same 30-minute spill. They've never proven anything, and it became a money racket, in my opinion. When you can go around for 4 years making tons of money talking about the same 30-minute spill, that just amazes me. And that's what we have with a lot of these election integrity people. Jeff and I have challenged them, and they've actually gotten mad. We've been around the table with them, having a beer or whatever. Some of these people around the country, and when we get in the middle of the night talking to them, you start challenging them. Well, where did you get your information? Has this been peer reviewed? Has this been looked at? And they get mad. They don't want to be challenged about this 30-minute spill they've been going around the country putting out. And all it does is rile up, especially the more far-right conservatives. They sort of get them under their wing, and they start believing everything they say. And it's just like I said, it's amazing to me that you can make money, thousands and thousands of dollars, and somewhat of some fame, going around telling the 30-minute spill and never showing any facts whatsoever how you got your information.
Seems like we got a lot of actors and actresses out there too. If you ever look up IMBD, it's kind of one of those things that you've got to make you ask questions, because this whole thing, the money making part of what's going on, I don't see a lot of people that are really serious into this. And the Republicans, in my opinion, are kind of more pathetic than the Democrats at this point in time, because they seem like they're working together. Like it's a uniparty, and there's something that's controlling, and I'd say it's probably the money, both sides. I'd say that we've got a problem in the grassroots groups too, because I think that the establishment is controlling most of the grassroots, because we've got things like Axe My Tax in Michigan. This thing it's crazy. This is nuts. And I don't understand. We're gonna talk about this in the next hour. I do not understand why people get sucked into headlines and they don't look into things enough to really understand what they're looking at. It's crazy. You would think that with proposal 1, 2, 3 here in Michigan, we would have learned from our mistakes by following headlines and bill languages or proposal languages that are misleading, but they're running right back into it. And I think they're being driven around just by the emotional people and that are making the money off the very systems that we're fighting.
Well, we definitely have a case of leadership capture. Okay. It's leadership capture. And what I want to present now is, we're doing these podcasts every Monday, and I'm all about solutions, right? We can talk, we can vent, but so let's just get back to who benefits from the bridge collapse. Now, I'll share that link later, but there's a video that's out. It's on the archives of the internet, and it's Brian Kemp pretty much pitching China or the CCP to to send the freight to Georgia, and we're going to buy, we're not going to buy John Deere's. We're going to buy Chinese-made equipment, and we have deep water ports. Twice he mentions it. Now, the video is subtitled in Mandarin, and it was taken down from the internet, but it's still on archives. So I'll share that with you either next week or later. But what I want to talk about now is, this I believe is a legal challenge that it would not cost a lot of attorney fees, and it's fairly simple, and it has to do with the Equal Protectionism Clause of the 14th Amendment, Section 1. And what does it say here? That no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So here's the concept of my legal theory, and it pertains to the last 4 digits of the Social Security number being accepted as ID to prove your identity when you request a vote by mail ballot and when you cast the ballot that is mailed to you. And all of a sudden, I mean, for 60 years on a Social Security card, clearly stated not for identity, and that's for a reason. And we were smart enough 60 years ago to implement that, and somehow through this slow boil of laws that we've experienced, and pretty much since Obama's first term, they reversed that, and they all of a sudden introduced this concept of the last 4 digits of your Social Security number is, we've been reduced to a number, and the federal government is controlling the voter registrations that are submitted through this new concept of using the last 4 digits of a Social Security number as ID. We've talked about that in the past. I don't want to muddle the issues. I want to get this down in a concise minute or two so I can rebroadcast this. And the people need to know. So what happens in certain states, and I checked 3. In Florida, to vote in person, which great, you need a photo ID. So basically, what's the end result? What's the end game? I want to cast my ballot in the state of Florida. But when I vote in person, photo ID. But when I mail in my ballot or when I request a ballot, I only have to provide the last 4 digits of my Social Security number. So in my opinion, and I'm not a constitutional attorney, but it's pretty simple stuff. You're creating a separate but unequal process. Okay, if I go and vote in person, before they hand me the ballot, and I tested this on March 19th, I had to produce my ID before they handed me that ballot, and then I was able to cast my vote. But when I do it by mail, I don't have to. So, in my opinion, that's 2 processes that are separate but not equal, and that's, in my opinion, a breach of the Equal Protectionism Clause. And Florida, well, we have 27 electoral votes. Texas, I think 28, right? Same thing. Texas, you need a little typo there. You need a photo ID. When you vote in person, I highlighted it down here. Same thing. Last 4 digits of your Social Security number. Let's go to Ohio. Photo ID is required. Vote by mail ballot. Last 4 digits of your Social Security number. Now, you can get Social Security numbers on the dark web. There was a breach just Friday, AT&T. 73 million users had to have their passwords reset, and they know 7.6 million end users or customers, their data, their profiles were stolen. So I don't know where how that could be used by bad actors, but I have a pretty good idea. This has become a cyber warfare where we're using the data to push registrations into our federal database, which we've shown in SSA.gov, Social Security, where we have these crazy numbers in swing states being registered. But back to the point, I mean, the theory is equal protectionism. It's 2 separate laws, 2 separate sets of rules for U.S. citizens, one you don't need ID. You need the last 4 digits of a social. The other, you need photo ID. I was just going through some breaches here, and I have this up on Twitter. But here's just 1 week total of the number of registrations that were sent through our federal system, which is under the law of the Help America Verify Voters section of the Help America Vote Act. Now, this is all redone by Obama, but you have 220,000 in a 1 week period in Texas. You have like 800 in Florida, 200 in other states. Virginia opted out of this, which is great. They're not even a part of this program. But so I believe that this is their entire game plan. Mike Tyson talks about a punch in the mouth. Your plan goes away, right? Everybody has a plan till you punch in the mouth. Well, if we're able to get a court ruling saying that, this does violate the Equal Protectionism Clause, and you have to use ID, you have to produce ID to even get your vote by mail ballot, I believe that will reduce the fraud tremendously. And we also have Delaware case law. We talked about that last week, where the judge ruled that the voting early first the ruling was voting early is not constitutional. It's very simple. Almost every state has the same language in their state constitution. Election day shall be the first Tuesday following the first Monday of November. Election day, not election season. The ruling went on to say that the act of voting by mail early is voting. So therefore, it's unconstitutional to vote early and to send a mail-in ballot. So this law, so we have 2 challenges. The RNC, where are they on this? Why isn't anyone talking about this? I believe that this could have a huge impact in the favor of the people in 2024. If someone will, step up, a lawyer, let's get docket numbers on 2 cases. Let's challenge the constitutionality of early voting. Every constitution says election day. It doesn't say election season. And you have 2 separate but unequal processes that are basically abridging the rights of the people, because there's much more vulnerability with only using a 4-digit number as ID. That's my pitch.
Well, and it's absurd too, because you've got 10,000 numbers that have to be spread out or repeated over how many million people? About 333. We don't even know how many people now, because they're including, that's not voters, that's population of the United States. But you know what I mean? If you're using it as an ID for that many million people, you only have, with 4 digits, 10,000 unique numbers. There's no way to do it.
Well, supposedly they run it through. This is the problem. The feds control this. So how it's supposed to work is I walk into a motor vehicle and I don't have ID, right? I don't have a picture ID. And, that's a red flag right away. It's someone who has no ties to the country or the community. And they say, well, here's, I have a social security number, and here's my last 4. And you could do this online, so there's no photo ID. You submit this to the county, and, well, they do ask for documentation. But that doesn't mean you have these NGOs that are out in force working, and they're basically registering people. They're taking the information, and they own that for 10 days. They don't have to turn it in for 10 days. So, time is when the evil permeates. But what do? You produce these 4 digits, you give it to the county, and they run it to the feds, and the feds say, oh, yeah, that registration, that ID is good. So they're supposedly checking to see if the identity is true. And the feds are the one who are orchestrating the invasion. The Department of Homeland Security Director, Alejandro Mayorkas, is under criminal indictment. And the people at the county level, they have blind trust and faith that the federal government are really checking these social security numbers.
Or they're all in on it.
They're all in on it, yeah.
And I think they're all in on it all the way from top to bottom, if you really want to know my opinion on it.
I believe it's election espionage at the highest level.
There's a pattern there. This is what happened in Nazi Germany. They went through the clerks to hand the entire nation over to the Nazis. And so the clerks the county clerks, the township clerk in where I'm at, denied a FOIA based on basically nothing, hung up on me when I was challenging her for it, as well as 4 election laws allegedly that they broke in our township by destroying records. And that came from an unlawful order by Jonathan Brader, who is also the chairman of the board of Eric. This is so coordinated. You couldn't even, it's like a matrix of people that are all connected.
Yeah, it's
good.
You know, what is it? France, Taiwan, Japan, Middle Eastern countries, Mexico. You can't vote by mail. So many countries, have learned their lesson, and look what happened in El Salvador and Argentina. Right? We get these America First, we get these national populist leaders elected by landslides, and everyone's happy. But look at what happens when you in Brazil and Venezuela, right? And then even in the United States, you have January 6th. You have riots in the streets in Brazil for millions of people. You have Bolsonaro being persecuted the same way Trump is, and they have one commonality: they're using machines and there's no transparency.
What's really kind of disturbing is I saw one guy that was had gotten a citizenship for, I think it was Germany, and he was from the Middle East, and he held it up and waving, and he said, "Now we own you." And it was like a absolutely a commercial for them doing a legal invasion. Now, I do know that there's some countries that will not allow people who come into the nation to vote in that generation. They make them wait for 2 or 3 generations or so before they will allow them to vote, because it stops this destruction of or opportunists, let's say opportunists that want to come here and just change things. It stops that ability to cheat.
Well, that's just like, even coming into the country, the southern border. I mean, that's just a total joke. But I talked about this just yesterday with some folks. And what we're losing 100,000 people estimated a year to fentanyl overdoses. What reality of any country, anywhere that a terrorist attack would kill 100,000 people and you wouldn't be in nuclear war? And we're doing it every year, 100,000. Nobody seems to care. I mean, it's unheard of. Well, how could you just let that happen and not try to fix it?
They're not overdoses. It's a chemical weapons attack.
Yeah, nobody really takes fentanyl for a fun drug. That is a drug to, in fact, kill people.
So,
and I'm sure all of us know somebody who's been killed by fentanyl. I actually know several and it's just really sad.
The original screenshot, Donna, that I wanted to share, and I don't want to cut off the fentanyl crisis. It's huge, and we know it's an attack on our country, orchestrated by the CCP with the help of the Mexican cartels and a willing government. And this is one reason why when you see the registrations for by coming through HAV, you're looking at Texas as being hit the hardest, and the cartel wants to control another border state, and not only that, a huge amount of electoral votes. But getting back to this whole thing of leadership capture and how our state legislators, like, how do those 3 laws in 3 different states get passed identically? Everyone thought it's a good idea, and I think it's in like over 43 states where you can just submit your 4 digits of a social, and it counts as verifying ID. That didn't just happen. These state legislators, they basically federalized the election system through these cookie cutter laws that were passed by the state legislators, who I believe are complicit. This is a text exchange that I had with Representative Michael Caruso of the 87th District of Florida. He's a state rep, and this is while they were negotiating they were debating the bill known as Resign to Run. This allowed DeSantis to remain in as governor and run for federal office. And basically, we got steamrolled because the Republicans were told, yeah, we need Ron to run, and the Democrats got a lot of the election laws even weakened even more. One of the drives, the huge drive that they had, was they want to allow NGOs what we call them 3PVOs in Florida. A 3PVO is the third party voting organization, which is a fancy word for an NGO. And they wanted to allow 3PVOs to hire non-citizens to register citizens. And
What?
yeah, and we won that battle, but it was that important that they took it to the Supreme Court. I think the 11th Circuit of Florida is where the appeals go to. It's the same judge, Mark Walker, who basically rules against anything conservative every time. I won't say that he has one or two good rulings. They were just so blatantly obvious that he couldn't rule against them. But here's the text exchange. This is while they're on the floor. This guy's in Tallahassee, and I'm texting him a story. And I told Shayne, I think Shayne I don't think he may have been at that meeting, where this a Haitian woman. I have nothing against Haitians, but we seem to have these city states established. You have them in Michigan, in Detroit, where you have Muslims, and you have the Hamas caucus with Ilhan Omar, and in Florida we have in Palm Beach County we have a high density of Haitians in Boynton Beach and Riviera Beach, certain pockets. So they're creating these city states. And so what happened was I'm approached. I'm running for Congress, and they call me in. Hey, we like your platform. They think they pump you up. Well, for $85,000. We'll go out and we'll get all the ballots you need, and we'll guarantee you a win in the primary. Interesting.
Yeah, I was actually I went to that meeting for Jeff after we set up a meeting after the fact, and I met with those people, and that's basically they'll go around and ballot harvest for you, and you pay them money. And he said anybody that local officials up to state officials, anybody that we've ever done this for, they always win.
Yeah, what do they say? Red or blue, your money's green. That's their slogan. Yep. Red or blue, your money's green.
So they
tell you, and they strong arm me if you don't do it. They say, well, we've already approached your competition, so you either do it or we're going to get the competition to do it.
Exactly. So here's the great part. I send him a text. I say, Mike, when I was running for Congress in Palm Beach County, I was approached by a Haitian group, and I tell him the whole story. He responds, yeah, they do that. Tracy, his wife, did not pay in her city election in Delray. Tracy got no Haitian vote. She lost. I respond, the only way to disarm that tactic is getting back to election day voting. He writes, I know, but that is the dream. So then I'm pounding him with phone calls. I'm texting this to everybody, and he calls me back. He goes, why don't you come up Thursday? This was April 24th. This is a few days later was Thursday. I'll get you in front of the governor, Jeff. Come up to Tallahassee. So I couldn't make it. It was too short notice. It's 7 hours. And Tallahassee is intentionally in the middle of nowhere. It's away from all the populated areas. And, it's the good old boys network that's running it. So I noticed on Thursday, while they're still debating this, and I'm putting this out on social media so everybody knows that he knows about ballot harvesting, in the House. He turns up, guess where? He's in Israel with DeSantis signing some anti-hate bill, that has to do with anti-Semitism. So, thankfully I didn't go up there. But when they voted, so he's a no vote now, because that was the day they voted on 7050, the resign to run bill. So now he's not on the record of voting, because DeSantis picks the Italian guy out of the crew to go to Israel to sign an anti-Semitic, anti-Semitism hate bill.
This is where I get the Anti-Defamation League all kinds of bent out of shape out of Donna Brandenburg, but this is a bunch of bull crap, and I'm going to tell you why. Everyone needs to be able to stand for question. This is a fight between good and evil, and this is entirely nonsense. That they hide under the protected classes that nobody should touch. That nobody can talk about or nobody can question, and this is crap. And that's exactly how they've been doing this for. And I'm not just pointing it at the Zionists. I'm the Bolsheviks or whatever you want to call them, because it's in every single religion. Look at the. I'm going to throw this out there. Look at the DeVosses and how they hide behind their little prosperity crap that's out there, and they've got their little pastors of like 12 of them that program everybody, claim it, frame it, because that's the way it works out here. You can hold God to a contract. I got a real problem with this, and I'm a Christian, and I'll eviscerate anybody that wants to debate that fact, because this is how they infiltrate.
Yep. Hey guys, I have to bounce. I'm back to that 10 a.m. meeting. Shayne, can we have you back next week?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll put you down, and maybe Donna, if we can get that flyer a little sooner, I can get that out on Twitter. I'm getting a lot of activity and retweets, and we can maybe build up the podcast reach.
Yeah, and I'm in bad need of some Palm Beach sun, so maybe I can get down there here in the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely, looking forward to seeing you. Thank you for everything you do, Donna.
Fine. Shayne, you can stay on for a few more minutes.
All right.
Yeah, you guys. I'm going to bounce, but thanks again, Donna, for the platform, everything you do. You're a patriot, and Shayne, love you, brother, and I'll see you soon.
See you guys.
Yes, sir.
So Shayne, let's talk to let's talk about the government contract stuff that you've done or whatever else is on your mind. We've got about 10 minutes.
Well, the government stuff. I got into computer recycling 20 some years ago. Almost 30 years ago, when it was computers were just being really launched. The old stuff, like before even Pentium 1s. And I got into that kind of government contract recycling for the government, and built a big business out of that. I had a lot of state contracts, recycling computers before anybody was even doing it. And my niche was I wiped the hard drives for them and certified that all the data was wiped for free to DoD standards. And at the time, there was only a couple of people in the country doing it. Then I'm a military contractor also. I've done some special forces school. Done several, for about a year and a half, I worked at Robin Say's, the final qualification course, as a contractor. And I've been all around with especially the last 5 years with election integrity that in the political process. And I sort of moved up pretty fast with that because I jumped right in onto a governor's race. So I sort of started at the top versus having a lot of people, they work their way up from the small races all the way up. I sort of jumped in at the top. So that was a big benefit to getting my political knowledge up and running. And then once the election integrity stuff hit, we were heavy into that. We were just trying to find the facts, and we went all over the country doing that, and some very very convincing meetings with showing some facts that people don't know, and that's why I really started to think during the middle of that process that a lot of the prominent figures touting election integrity almost was like it was a setup from the government, because they were making the election integrity circuit look like a joke. And I think that was done intentionally. I think it's still being done. I mean, if you make everybody look like they're crazy and just right wing fanatics that don't believe the elections were legitimate, then if you make them look, just like I said, look crazy and with all this outlandish stuff and saying you're going to have to put out facts and then you don't put out the facts, it's almost like a backdoor orchestrated deal to just to destroy the election integrity cause to start with.
And agree with you on that. The one thing that I have that I've got a real big problem with this is that how many years have we regurgitated the same basic things that could have nullified this right from the beginning? Right from the beginning, we would not have had to really go this far, except for, we're uncovering the myriad of ways that they've hacked the election. So I get that part of it, and that probably has some value to it. But I have not heard one person, well, I'm going to take this back. I've heard some people, and they're usually the ones that are standing around Scott Ogney and the locust standing people. But I am not hearing people quote the law. And that's the problem that I have with all of this. We have all kinds of people that want to say, well, this is what they did here, this is what they did there. And Jeff quotes it, and the people around Jeff. So I guess I got to broaden this. But I mean, the ones that are in front of the camera, they're just, in my opinion, they're camera whores for this industry that you were talking about, rather than getting to the bottom of it and wanting to fix it. It's a perpetual, give them a little information, reel them in. Give them a little information, reel them in. But it's never to haul it out and haul out all the information to go for the one or two shots to actually nullify it and rewrite those elections. And I'm going to go back to President Trump is a rightful president of the United States, whether you like him or not. We're fighting for that office, and that office is what represents each and every one of us. And our rights were violated. This was a selection process. This wasn't an election. And they put the people in that they want to have in those seats, and they groom them for it until they realize that they're compliant to just go along and get along, and it's disgusting.
People, that's very interesting. Not even with the presidential race, but I've been involved in many campaigns, many races. I'm heavily involved with the Republican Party in Virginia, and what people don't realize is just what you're saying. Yeah, you have a process to even be nominated as a candidate, mm-hmm. And there's many different fingers can be put on that process. That itself, people just don't realize that, just like I think even with yours, your governor's race there, they could put a finger on this and make sure that you don't get a nomination. And they do sort of pick, and you pick from. I watched this through the governor's race last time. When you're looking at just a couple candidates and they're both sort of similar, or you think one could win, or both of them could have a chance to win. I watched then what do you do when you're going up against Terry McAuliffe that can raise $70 million? Do you go with a candidate that's a grassroots that can't raise the money and you get slaughtered, or do you go with a candidate like Glen Youngkin that can raise millions and millions of dollars and fund 20-30 million of his own money to run the race?
That's all it's about. It's all about money, period. Because all these are parasites. And from my view, and I've been on the far right circuit. I've moved a lot sort of to the middle on a lot of issues, and rightfully so in a way. That's the process. The process is the problem. The process is the crappy thing about it, because if in Virginia, if Governor Youngkin wasn't a nominee, I'm convinced that we would no other candidate could have competed with Terry McAuliffe and beat him. The organization that the governor set up with the money that he had, the team that he had, it was just crazy, the sophistication of that race. And I knew all the other candidates. I was on the campaign trail with everybody, all the lieutenant governor candidates, all the attorney general candidates, and the gubernatorial candidates. And I truly believe if Glen Youngkin wasn't the nominee, we would not have a Republican governor. There's good points to some of that stuff too. It's not all bad, but the problem is just what we say: to get elected, it's all about money. You have to have the money. And I even go as far as to say, one of the reasons we don't have a lot of good grassroots politicians. How can you say at a state level in Virginia, there's like $17,500, something like $18,500 for a Senate pay. How can you be out of you got session for 3 months, 2 months 1 year, off years we have 2 months, and we have 3 months in session. That's not counting your special sessions and all the other things that you have to do as a state senator. So what normal working person can take off 3 to 5 months a year to be a legislator? So, there's so many sophisticated issues with this. Why do we not have the best people? Why do we not have, grassroots people? One, you have to have a ton of money, and you basically have to be self-employed or retired or wealthy. Because you
a normal
be a bullhead, man. You got to be so stubborn, because they're going to lie. They're going to lie their tails off and manipulate the facts and such. I have never seen so much I'm going to say truly unchristian behavior from people that claim to follow Christ in my life, as I've seen in these hypocritical political groups that are out there. They are terrible, and they lie at a drop of it's just incredible.
Well, there's more, in my opinion, there's more fake MAGAs that are out in public. They got on this Trump "Make America Great Again" thing, and they get a local claim to fame, or they speak their hardcore conservative talk, but really they don't care about all that. All they care about is the spotlight and the money. Right. So we have a ton of fake MAGAs out there that, some of them that are very popular that people really believe in. And if you knew the backstory and you knew what they really believed in or how they really talked behind the scenes, you would never support them.
Right. And I think that those are important. Those are really important things to go through. I've got a couple people right now I'm a little bit on the war path against, because I caught them in a lie. There's 3 of them that I caught them lying. When somebody lies to you one time, they're going to lie again. because they've proven themselves untrustworthy. A person who's trustworthy tells the truth, whether anybody likes it or not. Every single time they're consistent. But once somebody tells a lie, you have to start questioning every single thing out of their mouths.
Well, I've spent the last 2 years making sure that the Senator Amanda Chase that I worked on the governor's race for, and I was her senior legislative aide for 14 months. When I left her, one of the reasons I left her is because just the lies and hypocrisy. And I've been basically I did an opposition campaign against her for her last election, and she lost her seat in large part because of what I did. Had a lot of people working against her that just got tired of it. I mean, she was censured in the Senate, and in her own Republican conservative, some of the most conservative colleagues in the Senate got up on the Senate floor and talked about what a liar she was, how she was deceptive, how she was a hypocrite, how disrespectful she was. And I went out and lost a lot of support from my conservative right base, people that love me, because now I'm considered a traitor. But my thing was, if she's talking, she's lying, and that's my saying for her. If she's talking, she's lying, and I'm not about that. So I lost a lot of support. We sort of became looked at as in the far right conservative circles for sure in this area. That I was a traitor because, look, I'm and the politicians are good at spinning. So now I'm the disgruntled employee. No, I'm the guy. I'm the employee that knows you inside and out better probably than your husband, because I was with you for 14 months more than you were with your husband when we were on the campaign trail and on the election integrity circuit. I know you, and I know what a liar you are. And I can't. That's one of my things. I can't do that. I can't continue to support people once I know that who they really are, if they're not what they say they are. And that's why we started the Transparency Project PAC. And what we're doing with that, we're growing that. And we hit politicians. Doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. If you're a liar or you're doing bad stuff, we're gonna expose you for it, because we need to do that now.
We absolutely have to do that. We have to be transparent. The only trans I want to hear out there is transparency, and not the tack on Easter, on Resurrection Day by Biden, and having that trans day. This is a bunch of crap.
Can you believe that? Even if you're not a Christian, non-Christians are saying, that's just wrong. That shit makes no sense.
Can you imagine them doing that to any other group on the planet besides something that was Christian?
They'd be right in the streets
out there. Yeah, it's got to tell everybody out there. Why are they going after this so hard? Why are they going after Christianity so hard?
Well, in Christianity and the conservative base, because those are the ones that are standing up and speaking out, and they're not letting it go. Look, we've been fighting it for years, but especially the last 4 years, and that's the big threat. The conservative, religious, God-fearing base. Even if you're whatever your religion is, if you're a good conservative. And you're standing up, and we're, squeakiest wheel gets the grease, and we've been screaming and yelling for years, and it's a threat to them.
Yeah, but you could never get away with what they're doing. Can you imagine them doing that on one of the Muslim holidays?
Right. Yeah.
It would have been, things would have been burned right to the ground. Are you kidding me? And so, it's really crazy.
Well, there's the thing, another thing, we need to stop taking this stuff. We need to start standing up and stop taking this. A lot the other groups won't take it. That's why they get out in the streets and riot, and we sort of just get mad about it and don't do anything. And I think the conservatives need to start standing up more and being more vocal and really, really talking about it a lot.
Well, it's like, I expect that anyone who claims to be a Christian will stand up to questioning. We can't have a protected class of Christians, and I'm a Christian. If they're out there, if we're out there saying something and we're doing something wrong, it's either good or it's evil. Same thing with the I'm going to call them Bolsheviks and such that are masquerading as Jews. They're not. Or the Muslims. We cannot have protected classes of people, because the good people that are within these classes have been infiltrated, and it's the leaders that have come in wolves in sheep's clothing to lead people astray. I don't care what they're in. It's wrong. So no more protected classes. We need to just throw them out there and see how they do under the light. Mm-hmm. And if they can't, they're either going to sink or swim on their own merit of good or evil. That's it. And so, and I think that goes across the board. So can you tell everybody how to find you out there and what your website is? I'm looking at it. It's transparencyprojectpac.org and rainmakerstrategicpartners.com.
Yep. You
correct?
Can reach us there. Yep. And the Rainmakers is a political consulting company. We do just about everything for a candidate. I mean, even if you already have a consultant or you have a field manager or a team lead, whatever, we can do any part of your campaign. We don't have to have the whole campaign. We can do just any part of it. And we mainly focus on conservative, more right-leaning conservative candidates, trying to get them elected. And we interview and we do, we make sure that that we have a good candidate and somebody that we can support. We just don't take a candidate because they give us money.
Well, that's admirable. I mean, we all need to stand for what's good and right. Well, I appreciate coming on today, and I look forward to you coming back on again, because we always talk Monday morning at 9 about election integrity and the crisis, the election infrastructure crisis. That's what it is. We've got, when you're talking about foreign individuals registering people, Americans, to vote, that right there is a violation of foreign intervention in our elections, and that should absolutely have been prosecuted under the law and ended immediately. But they don't want to do that. And it comes from within our own government because we've already been infiltrated. But that's okay. We're going to keep going after this, and we're going to throw them out in the light and watch them shrivel and their funds dry up like a bunch of little raisins out there, and then they're not gonna stand. So thank you for being on today, Shayne. We're going to go to my next my next hour, and I look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day.
You too.
Good morning. Welcome to the second hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is April 32nd, April Fool's Day. It's April 1st, 2024 today, and welcome to our show. I've got my next guest that's going to be on is Mike Bambas, and Mike challenged a U.S. Senate candidate, Mike Rogers, and he failed badly. Mike Rogers failed badly. He wouldn't answer the questions, and he ran out of the room to get away from the questioning because Mike put him in a little bit of a pickle. He had to choose one way or the other, and either way that they chose to answer his questions, they were absolutely in violation of the law. And they were either choosing treason or they were choosing to admit that property rights are completely out of whack. And we're going to get into this right now. Morning, Mike. How you doing?
Morning. How you doing?
Great. I've so enjoyed talking to you, and I'm so thankful that you came on this morning. I'd like to play some of the videos here a minute, if you don't mind. I'm going to go ahead and play 3 videos for people to watch, and well, I'll go one at a time, and then you can comment.
Yeah, thank you. Next question. I actually have 2 questions, one for the prosecutor candidate and one for Mike or the sheriff, whoever wants to take the second one. Currently, I have FOIA'd the majority of office here in Michigan. Not one judge can I find has a proper oath of office pursuant to Article 11, Section 1 of the Michigan. They're also in non-compliance with 4 U.S.C. 101, 5 U.S.C. 3331, and 28 U.S.C. 450.
Have him repeat. Can he repeat the question?
Talk loud. The feedback is too much. Turn the microphone on. Let me restart the question.
Yeah.
Judges who oaths of office I have FOIA'd here in Michigan. Not one judge has a proper oath of office pursuant to Article 11, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution. They are also non-compliant with 4 U.S.C. 101, 5 U.S.C. 3331, and 28 U.S.C. 453. They also do not have an anti-bribery statement, foreign agent registration statement on file. Also, pursuant to the Michigan Constitution, Article 6, Section 19, a license to practice law is required, yet the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled at least a dozen times that a bar card is not a license. No license to practice law exists. We have corrupt judges, or those who are claiming to be judges are actually administrators.
And do you want me to go right into 2, or do you want to make some comments on this a minute?
Basically, what I've been looking into is a lot of the judges that claim to be judges here in Michigan. None of them have a proper oath of office pursuant to Article 11, Section 1 of the Michigan Constitution. We have these administrators at best making decisions about people's lives, and they don't have the authority. There's no delegation of authority for them to do so. And this is a real problem. And one of the issues I brought up during that meeting was the fact that there's a woman in Tuscola County right now. She's been in jail for over 100 days. She can't get a fair trial. She hasn't even had a hearing. And the judges up there, we disqualified one of them. Jason Bitzer was disqualified. They put in another guy by the name of Harrington. And there's another judge in the circuit court, Judge Harry Gill, who's been, he's actually a retired judge appointed by Governor, I call her Nitwit, Governor Whitmer.
Witless.
Yeah. And, but he's been disqualified, and he still refuses to release her. And she's been, even if she was convicted on the allegations that were made against her, she's done more time in jail than what the maximum of the sentences would have been. So we've been doing everything we can to try and get her out of jail, and they just refuse. They won't set a bond, nothing. And so this is why, I'm looking to these prosecutors and asking, why won't you prosecute a rogue judge? Why are you, obviously it's all, the good old boy system here. They're all bar card members. They protect themselves. They don't take an oath to the Constitution. They take an oath to the British Crown. And so we have to start coming down on these judges, and we have an administrative process that we're putting together to start going after these judges and start holding them accountable for their actions and their violations to their alleged oath that they claim that they take. And that's what's going to have to start happening, right across the board with all our other public functionaries. They're usurping their authority, and they can't do this. And we got to put a stop to this.
They're not following the law at all. And you can see that on a local level, this is like a J6 imprisonment, really. I mean, it's totally out of whack with what their jurisdiction is and what they can do. What's the gal's name that's in prison her
name is Misty Leanne Thompson. And I just talked to her this morning. The sheriff's department, Tuscola Sheriff's Department, would not allow her to attend Mass, Easter Mass. Told her that it was a privilege and not a right to attend church through the jail. So they denied her the ability to have Mass for Easter. And so, this is the abuses that are going on in our jails, and this has to stop. This can't continue.
Let's play the second clip here a minute, and we'll go over some.
We have separate sovereigns in the United States. Generally speaking, federal laws, not the federal Constitution, that have specific requirements are not going to affect state-level offices. So if you're referring to county judges, Michigan Court of Appeals, and the like, none of that would be applicable, so none of that would be something I deal with. If you're talking about federal judges, that's outside the purview of a county prosecutor, because, again, the county prosecutor derives its authority from the state constitution, and we have 51 sovereigns, all 50 states, and then the United States federal government, which includes the federal government and all the territories. In terms of the other one, my jurisdiction would be limited to Oakland County. I'm not sure which judges do not have proper paperwork or the like. What I would tell you, though, is that if you believe now that there is illegal activity occurring, whether it be from judges or whether it be attorneys in general, because you mentioned attorneys and what you were talking about too, rather than wait, there's the Michigan Attorney Grievance Commission, which deals with claims regarding attorneys, and the Judicial Tenure Commission, which deals with judges. So if you have documentation that is proving something unlawful, then the best course of action would be to fill out a full report and submit what you have so they can investigate it, because that can start now. Start end of March.
We tried it. We have a rogue judge by the name of Harry Gill, retired judge, appointed by Governor Nitwit to oversee a case in Tuscola County. There's a woman currently right now has been locked up for over 100 days and cannot get a hearing.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, again, my purview would be Oakland County. I would have no authority to do anything in Tuscola County. If there's an issue there, as this is probably going to be the most frustrating answer I give, but you contacting Dana Nessel's office because she's the Attorney General, so
Got nowhere.
I understand. But again, I'm running for Oakland County prosecutor. My authority would only be to deal with matters in Oakland County.
Okay. My second question.
Let's go to the next one a minute. Who is that? What's the prosecutor's name there?
Scott Farida. I'm not sure. I was Farida.
Okay. Do you have any comments on what he just said?
I'm sorry?
Do you have any comments on what he just said?
He was trying to state that the federal laws don't apply to the states or the state judges. Actually, they do. If you were to read the statutes that I had cited, which referred to 4 USC 101, 5 USC 3331, and 28 USC 453, in there it states that all judges and justices, and magistrates. So it does not differentiate between state or federal on that level. There's a lot of laws that only appear at the federal level that do not appear at the state level. For example, Michigan does not have any laws regarding judge disqualification, and the judges like to fall back on the core rules as their fallback position. Unfortunately, under Title 28, Section 455, that does address state judges in regards to disqualification, but they don't like to admit to that.
Wow. Let's go to the next one a
I
minute.
hope all the young Republicans out there listen into the second question I'm about to ask, as well as everyone else. According to the Trading with the Enemy Act, 1933, under that act, the Constitution was suspended, all laws in America were suspended, all property is that of the state, and all citizens of America are enemy combatants. My question here, and I base this on a ruling from a judge out of Ann Arbor, is the Trading with the Enemy Act still being enforced here today? And if so, how is it not an act of treason or insurrection on the part of every public functionary that is enforcing it?
So who's that to?
Mike, either Mike or the sheriff.
The sheriff. You're Mike too.
Well, it's a good question. Here, I'll answer again. That refers to a federal statute, which would have nothing to do with what I would be handling, and I would have no authority to do anything regarding it.
Well, it eliminates the borders. If they suspend the Constitution under that act that's being enforced, we don't have a border. That's why we have an open border. That's why I want to know, is it being enforced? According to the judge in Ann Arbor, it is.
I think we lost the judge, the sheriff and the congressman.
Yeah.
Hi, man.
Pretty sad there. So I have all of the stuff that you sent me, and let's just go ahead and start with this guy right here. Let me see if I can move that document up here, and we'll share the first screen on does the U.S. Constitution exist?
Yeah, the Constitution does exist. We are still a republic, even though they're trying to obscure it and hide it through legislative acts. There's nothing that can take that away from us. And the Congress and our state legislators are trying to legislate the Constitution into non-existence. They don't have the delegated authority to do so. There's numerous U.S. Supreme Court rulings that flat out state that they cannot do this. And so when the Trading with the Enemy Act kept coming up in conversations, I decided to take a deep dive into it. And I'm not proclaiming to be an expert on it, but I did do a deep dive on it. And what I found was very appalling. that under that act, and it was revised from the 1917 version, in that the in FDR's version, they had taken out a section from the 1917 that made all American citizens enemy combatants. So what the Supreme Court did, and they ruled on this several times, in Butler v. U.S. Stated it was unconstitutional. ALA Poultry v. U.S. Stated that FDR could not be given the delegated authority that Congress was trying to give him. And it was very specific. So the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled on this numerous times. The Trading with the Enemy Act cannot be enforced. It's unconstitutional. And the problem is that there's nobody enforcing the Supreme Court rulings on this. This really hasn't been challenged since 1935. So now I am now challenging it. So
am I in the right place here on this document, or would you like me to go to a place on this document a minute?
Well, sure. Yeah, right there is, basically I'm talking about the I get my glasses on here. The other thing is that under the act, all commerce is considered illegal, meaning that unless you have a permission, i.e. a license from the federal government or the state, you're not allowed to do commerce. And that's where this Ann Arbor case came into play. The judge in Ann Arbor basically stated that you can't get paid for the work or services that you provide unless you have a license from the state. And that's not how it's supposed to work. It's not how it's supposed to be. Laura, the licensing department of Michigan, is a de facto agency. It was created by an executive order under Rick Snyder. And that's where Laura came into existence. So because it's de facto, Norton v. Shelby County, 1886, we know that de facto departments, agencies have no authority. They don't exist. So how can you get a license from something that doesn't exist? And the judge just doesn't see it that way. It's, this is the way it is, and that's the way it will be. She even went so far as to ignore higher court rulings, including the U.S. Supreme Court rulings regarding the definitions of words and such. So in this little thing that I had sent you, basically it's a timeline of the events that took place in how the Trading with the Enemy Act came into play, the Supreme Court rulings that opposed it. And by all means, if you want to share this with your audience, by all means, please do. And everything I give you is shareable.
Well, this is what I like about you, Mike, is that you're doing everything you do for free, like I do. And I have a lot of respect for that, because most people out there, to the point of the guys in the first hour, are in this for money. When you see people out there like Mike that are just share this and get this information out there, no money exchange behind it, I typically give people a little bit more credibility, and I certainly give you kudos for that. So it's not normal in the climate that we're in.
No, I do speaks all over. I interact with a lot of different groups across the state, and everything that I put out there is shareable. To me, I'm not here to try and make a profit off of everything, and I by no means want to be called a guru of anything. I'm trying to share my knowledge and my experiences with everybody so that they can learn from it and apply it to their situation. And we're not going to turn this country around if we don't start educating everybody and getting everybody to understand how to do this and the process by which to do it. And my experiences that I've dealt with as far as judges and politicians, by all means, I'm going to share that with everybody. I'll let you know exactly what I did, how I did it, and the results that I've received. Now, not all of my results are favorable. It is what it is, but I do make progress. I do get things accomplished, and I make little wins. I win these little battles here and there, and I get these judges, especially the judges. I get them to say and do things you would not believe. I mean, they do things that they should not do, but you know what? I use that against them later on. So their own actions and antics come back to haunt them down the road, and that's why I do what I do. I don't recommend anybody doing, and some of my associates that will tell you the same thing, don't do what I do in the court. I go in there with an agenda. I go in there with a purpose, and I'm in there to get as much information as I can out of these judges. I get them to try and rule on things that may or may not be questionable as far as what does it pertain to the case. This Ann Arbor case, where this judge is basically ruling that I'm going to take this as far as I can. I may or may not win. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. What I'm trying to get is a solid answer. Is the Trading with the Enemy Act being enforced, or is it not? There's a purpose and reason why. And as far as what happened with Mike Rogers, I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. I don't care what party you're with. Everybody should be asking this question to every public functionary, whether it be at the federal, state, or local level. Is this act being enforced? Because here's why. There's two sides to this. And this is why it's a catch-22 for them. If they answer yes, then they're considering us enemy combatants. That means all property is owned by the state, and they are ignoring the U.S. Supreme Court rulings. They are committing treason and insurrection by their actions enforcing it. If they answer no, that they're not enforcing it, then under the act, all property rights are supposed to come back to us. We're supposed to have absolute title in our property. If you look on your warranty deeds, it says that you're a tenant. Well, if you're a tenant, who's the owner? That's the state, which means they're fraudulently pushing this through under smoke and mirrors. And so that's why we have to challenge them on this, because if it's not being enforced, the state has to relinquish absolute title back to us. That's on your properties and houses. That's on your car, your boats, everything. So the other aspect is because it now becomes under, according to Congress, a personal household good. It's not taxable. So the taxes go away. You won't need a license to operate a business. You won't need a license for anything. What does a license really do? It doesn't guarantee anything. Do doctors get charged with malpractice? Yes. Does a license, someone with a license to operate an automobile get into an accident? Yes. It guarantees nothing as far as health and safety of the general public. It's a money revenue raising scheme, a tax on the American people. Builder's license. I'm a contractor. I've been a contractor for over 33 years. A contractor's license did not come into existence until 1980. Prior to that, there was no license. So this was strictly a revenue-raising tax on the part of the states to do this. So,
well, and all it is a barrier for entry. It's like how they do, we've talked about asset capture on every level of government. Well, that's what they're trying to do is control and create barriers for entry to those people that will play ball with the people sitting in the seats of government so that they can make money and control it. And they do it through the copyright laws, the regulatory nonsense they have. They control it. They become judge, jury, and executioner on every level. So any licensing bureau, who's going to control the qualifiers for that license? The industry. Why is the industry doing it? To protect their ability to do business and have a standard? No, it's keep a barrier of entry out and price control.
Yeah. We as free men and women are not required or actually cannot contract with an artificial entity. The government's an artificial entity. We as free men and women cannot contract with artificial entities. The U.S. Supreme Court's ruled on this. So what they're trying to do is claim that as a person, which is defined as an artificial entity, we now fall into that realm of being an artificial. Therefore, there's a contract, and they force you into those contracts. Right now, I've got a case that's a couple of years old before Judge Daniel Bain of the 53rd District Court in Livingston County. And I was charged with not having a operator's license. So operator, driver, those are commercial terms. Vehicle is commercial term. And I said, I have the right to travel. We all have the right to travel. I was not in commerce. That's the only time you need a driver's license is if you're doing commerce over the road. I was not. I was transporting myself, and that is not considered commerce. And so we went back and forth on this. And he finally said, look, I'm ordering you to get a driver's license. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to try and be in compliance. I just wanted to see what would happen. Now, there's something that a lot of people don't know, and I'll touch on this in a minute. But when I went to the Secretary of State to get the driver's license, they could not contract with me. The reason why is because I own nothing. Everything I have are in trusts. So I own nothing. And because I don't own an abode in my name, they will not contract with me. So I went back to court and I told the judge, I said, I tried. They won't contract with me. He said, why? I said, because I don't own an abode and they can only contract with someone who has an abode. And he looked at me like, didn't know what to say. And I said, Judge, let's make this simple. You issue an order ordering the Secretary of State to contract with me and give me the driver's license that you want me to have. He goes, I can't do that. It's not in my jurisdiction. I said, well, I guess we're done. So since I have not had a driver's license for over 2 years, and they can't force me into contract.
You were hilarious. You were absolutely hilarious. What a beast level fighter. I mean, this is amazing.
So this is a way to fight back. We need to stop giving them consent. When we consent to everything that they're throwing at us, we're funding the fraud that's being laid against us. We need to stop consenting. And that's the only way they can keep succeeding is by our consent. If we don't consent, we defund them.
I'm liking where you're going with this, quite honestly. So do we want to go back down to this document that you produced here and look down that a little further? Is there anything in here, or do you want to go to the next document?
If you want to post this just basically gives a timeline of when FDR took office. It talks about how they implemented Proclamation 2039 and Proclamation 2040. There's another test right there under those proclamations. We're not supposed to have gold in our possession. The government took confiscation of all the gold, and there's a penalty for having gold in our possession, yet they don't enforce it. So they're picking and choosing which parts of this act they're going to enforce to their own benefit.
They do that with all the laws. It's just harassment now.
Yeah, it really is. And so this is why I say, no matter who the politician is, whoever the public functionary is, at federal, state, or local, challenge them on this. I've got and I don't mean just pick up the phone and call them. I'm saying send them a FOIA. Now I have a format for a FOIA that I use, and I never have a problem with it. They always respond to it, and I can share that with you. You can share it with your audience. But you do it through a FOIA, and the reason why is because whatever answer they give, it's automatically certified. And now you can use that in court if you ever have to go to court. And it's a way of establishing credibility through their own words. And so by challenging them on this, and I've got several agencies right now that I'm challenging in a lot of different areas here, including the Trading with the Enemy Act. And the responses I get, I'm going to be able to share with everybody, and everybody's going to see firsthand that either they are or they are not enforcing it. And my guess is that there's going to be certain agencies that are and some that are not. Well, that doesn't work. Either it's across the board or not at all. So if we can show that it's hit and miss, depending on the departments and agencies, now we can show that there is fraud being perpetrated by them upon us. And now we can start a remedy process through an administrative process to go after them for doing these acts against us. And now we can force the state to release the absolute title to our properties back to us.
Well, and there you go. Axe my tax. This is the better way that it's done, rather than selling a headline, which just shuffles money around back to the state level. That's what that's all about.
Yeah, so, I went to a couple of those seminars. I'm not in agreement with that.
I'm not at all.
There's other ways of doing it. I mean, you can bring your land patent forward, merge the titles, get it recorded, and get off the tax rolls that way as well. So there's other processes that can be done to get out of the property tax scam that we're having to deal with.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that process at all. I've looked at it, and I've got some real questions. We're going to continue to go forward in that, because I think that the connections with the people involved, as well as the processes that were not even followed, that were supposed to be there, have not even been followed at all. So I've got a problem with this, but people keep chasing headlines, and that's unfortunate, because that's a sell job. That the headlines is a sell job, because that's what we all want to see. We want to see the property taxes stopped, because it's an unlawful taxation. They can't. And the license, going back to the licensure too, it is unlawful. The bar is unlawful. They don't have a license to practice law. They've got a membership card in the bar. That's not a license to practice law. Correct. It's a private membership. It's as damaging and dangerous as, let's just say, the Federal Reserve. It's an outside entity. It's not a U.S. even corporation.
Being back to that case I talked about in Livingston County, and this is something else you can address with the tax assessor. First off, where's the contract? Where's the wedding contract that I agreed to when I bought said property, house, whatever, that agreed to the terms and conditions by which you are taxing me? Where's the contract? Next, under state law, in order for them to collect taxes, they have to collect that in lawful money, not legal tender, but lawful money. Well, we don't have the ability to do that. Under Proclamation 2039, all debts owing are that of the United States. And gold and silver was confiscated from us, was taken away from us. So the only thing that we can do is we, the people, can decide what else is in an intrinsic value. Now, there is a Michigan case, Montgomery Ward v. Eugene Glacier, 1982, where the court accepted coffee beans as legal tender. Now, with the Livingston County case that I had, I paid them in legal tender, i.e. coffee beans, and they're having a conniption about it. They don't know what to do.
John Tater's done the same thing. He's paid them in beans because they're out of whack here.
Yeah.
So
there's other ways. You can challenge them on what species of payment do they want. Credit card, money order, those are forms of payment. That's not substance of payment. And they have to state what substance of payment. So that's another angle that the people can take a look at and address that way too.
This is actually so fun. I love it because they've been feeding us a bunch of crap for so long. It's really fun to see the emergent ridiculousness of how far away this country has gotten from what the founding fathers had envisioned for us. So I'll go down to the Emergency Banking Act. Would we want to talk about that a little bit? Because that's where we're going.
Yeah, it's kind of a spin-off a bit of the Trading with the Enemy Act. Again, it's unconstitutional. It's not enforceable. They never had Congress cannot delegate their authority to the executive branch. And that's why I kind of laugh when I hear these local municipalities say, well, the legislative branch of the city council or township council. No, they don't have a legislative branch. They're executive. They cannot create ordinances or rules or guidelines that raises revenue. That's revenue raising. That's a tax. And only the legislative branch has the power to do so, whether it be at the state level or federal level. So when local municipalities say, well, we have the ability to do, no, you don't. It's you're what you're doing is usurping your limited delegated authority, and you're in violation of Norton v. Shelby County. And when you challenge them on this, boy, they just, they don't know what to do. And I encourage everybody to challenge it. This is something that's not hard to do. And the time it takes to watch a halftime show of a football game, write up a FOIA or a letter and send it to them and see how they respond. And I guarantee you're going to be amazed at the responses you're going to get out of them because they don't know how to handle it. They don't know what to do. And when you challenge their authority, they panic. And that's when you know that you're on the right track.
Yeah, just like our township clerk did. She panicked. She talked. So I couldn't. At one point, there was not one word that I was able to contribute to this conversation, and then she hung up. So I was not able to even respond to her. That told me right there that, oh yeah, that's what panic looks like. Mm-hmm. So that's okay. So and then I think that's 37 FDR attacks. I'm going back in time a little bit here. We had the Senate report.
Yeah, the Senate report 1973, basically Congress was trying to ensure that the Trading with the Enemy Act was still in place and enforceable when it really technically wasn't under the U.S. Supreme Court rulings. The document you have up right now, I think, is number one. Number two, I have...
Go to number two?
Yeah, go to number two.
Okay.
Because that has the Supreme Court rulings in there that oppose everything that they're claiming is valid.
Okay, hang on a second. This is real news for real people by real people at the kitchen table. And sometimes it takes a minute. I'm running about 4 different screens right now which is always fun. And I know I haven't gotten to the chat, guys, and I've been reading it kind of as we go along. We can get to that at some point in time. Not ignoring you, not trying to anyhow. Let's see. Okay, here we go. This is let's see. I'm gonna see if I got the right one. I've got two of them up. Let's go to this one. See if that's right. Is that the same one or is it a different one?
If you scroll down, you should see some red writing. Those will be the Supreme Court cases. Yep, right there.
There it is.
Yep.
Okay, that's the right one. So,
yeah. So basically, the first part's all the same. I just in this one, I just injected the Supreme Court rulings that oppose everything that they're claiming is valid. I think the first one was Butler, and which ruled that it is unconstitutional in the manner in which they put it together. So,
okay, let me go down here and let's get down to that point here. What is it? Storr versus Wallace?
Yeah. Under that one, I'm trying to remember that one. Oh. Right. Maybe. Yeah. Everybody knows this one. 1803, Marbury v. Madison. Anything that's repugnant to the Constitution is automatically void. So if they didn't have the delegated authority to do it, if they create something that's repugnant to the Constitution, it's void. They can't enforce it. The problem is that we don't have an enforcing body that's willing to stand up for that. And that's where the militia, I think, needs to be talked about more. The militias are we the people's way of enforcing these laws to be enforced against our public functionaries. And when they get out of line, when they're doing things they're not supposed to be doing, our militia should be bringing them. We should have a grand jury to bring them before and try them for their acts of treason and insurrection that they're committing. And we're not doing that. They're using scare tactics against the people to subdue all that. And that needs to be taken a look at.
And look at anytime you bring up militia, they go right to grab your torches and pitchforks and that kind of thing. As these are crazy people. But what I found is that most people that even give audience to the militia against their, the topic of it, against all of their brainwashing that they've done, you find that they've really done a great hit piece on even discussing the militia, which is in the Constitution.
Yes.
It's the only thing that says it's necessary.
Well, when Governor Nitwit imposed her COVID restrictions on everybody, and we're putting elderly into nursing homes, and they were basically being murdered. I issued a citizen's arrest. Now, under MCL 764.16, under the Michigan Code, if someone were to commit a felony in your presence, you have the right to institute a citizen's arrest. Now, I wrote up a complaint and filed it with the Michigan State Police. They reviewed it, came back to me and said, yes, this is correct. Everything you've got in here is enforceable. And they asked me, well, how do you want to proceed? And I said, well, go arrest her. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, then I'll make it easy for you. And I cited MCL 764.16, and they said, yeah, you can do that. How do you want to proceed? And I said, well, let's go to, I like a couple of your officers to go with me because I'm not going to be armed. And we'll go to one of her press conferences. When she's done, I will step up, verbally place her under arrest and turn custody over to the Michigan State Police. And they said, yeah, you can do that, but we have to let you know that if you do that, we're going to shoot you. And I was like, come again? And so, yeah, I've received, that to me, that's a threat against my life by the Michigan State Police.
It is.
And to protect a governor who is acting outside her authority. Now, if you look at the Michigan State Police, nowhere in our Michigan Constitution are we supposed to have a state law enforcement agency. So they are technically a de facto agency, a de facto department. And under Norton v. Shelby, they have no authority. They don't exist. And yet they're being used in a military way to subdue the people of the state of Michigan into compliance with the governor and AG's demands.
Well, it's one of the governor's department, so their job is to protect the governor. It's not to serve we the people. I'm a fan of the sheriff's office, quite honestly, because that gives there's a recourse to get rid of a criminal or sheriff or somebody who's not following the law or somebody who's not serving we the people. You can vote them out, provided the elections are honest, which right now they're not. So that's kind of, we talked about this too. This is what I'm working on, is trying to remove the machines from the electronic voting machines, because that's where the anything that goes into the digital space can be hacked, and hacked very easily. So, and we've proven it that they hacked it. It was not just maladministration; it was outright fraud that was committed in this state. And you can see that by what Nessel did, and in conjunction with what did Nessel do? She passes it to the secretary, or to the Michigan State Police, washes her hand like the child she is, and walks away and says, see, I did what I was supposed to do. No, she still did not walk away or abdicate her responsibility on this. So we've got a big problem. We've got an agency that should not exist, and that is not serving we the people. And every level of government should be there to serve we the people. It is only a service, a very limited service organization. That's it. It's a contract. It's a contract for services that we contract with the government in total. And they have so far run past the boundaries on this, it's not even funny. So let's go back to this again. And we stopped at Marbury versus Madison. Let's go down through this, because I think this is fairly, I like the way that you write, and I love the way that you kind of put things together. We're going to go through this, and I think we should do this again and just do an overall picture of this today, and go through these documents one at a time. Would you come back again so that we can go through these documents one at a time and have concrete steps laid out, what you need to do, this and this and this and this, and this is what it looks like with all the documents put together. Would you do that?
Sure.
Okay. Awesome.
The one thing, and this is something I very preach a lot to a lot of everybody who wants to get involved and wants to start doing this. You've got to learn to protect yourself, and what I mean by that is you need to get everything that you have into trust. Put your house into a trust. Put your car into a trust. If you have more than one car, put them in separate trusts. I think I've lost count, 22 different trusts. And so you got to get everything into these trusts. And the reason why is because now they can't harm you in that area. And that's one of the people why people are afraid. They're afraid, I'm going to go to jail and they're going to take my house, or they're going to take, if you put everything in a trust, you own nothing. They can't take it from you. The trust owns it. So that's your first line of defense in all this, is that you get everything into trust. Don't hire an attorney to do that. If I have a sample trust that I share with everybody to get them started on this. So if I can send it to you and you can share it with your viewers. And this is a way to make sure that you have the right jurisdiction. A lot of people don't understand that right now our state legislators are trying to redefine guardians and such in the Michigan Trust Code, which is the 700 series in our MCLs. And they're trying to get 100% personal and subject matter jurisdiction over all contents of the trust, over the grantors, over the trustees, and over the beneficiaries. And it's completely unconstitutional what they're trying to do. But they want 100% control over everything that you have, even if it's in a trust. That noted, I put together a trust that counters all their actions and shuts that down. So again, I can send it to you. You can take a look at it.
I love that.
Shareable.
And then we can continue going through all of this stuff. I think that this is extraordinary. And honestly, I was explaining to somebody the other day why a marriage license is a bad idea. A marriage license that is issued by the government is nothing more than a way to take control of your assets. So they're betting that the marriage will fail so that they can commandeer assets, divide them up, including the children. And I'm kind of opposed to the government being involved in any of this stuff. You want to get married, go get married. And
marriage license is a contract with the state. And
yeah,
the old way of doing it was you put your names into the family Bible with your witnesses.
right.
That solidifies the intent. Where with you taking a marriage license, you're making a contract with the state.
And they now own your assets. That's
Yeah.
exactly what this is about. They own your value and your assets. And I think that people think that they're going to get into these little protected organizations. And, you heard me talk earlier, I'm sure, about we can have no protected classes of people. Well, people still want to gravitate to these protected organizations thinking that they're going to give them safety. They're walking right into a trap almost every time. And so I think that we're all getting smarter, but we're not getting smart enough quick enough at this point in time, but we're learning. So, and I'm going to include myself in this right now too, because all of this stuff, it's not like I'm an expert in this. It's digging our way through and figuring this stuff out as we go, because we have been so misled.
Yes. Well, they've been doing this for a long time. And so now we're trying to play catch up. So
absolutely,
it's going to be a process. The hardest thing is, we've all been indoctrinated into their system, and now it's a matter of deprogramming and reprogramming the correct way. Yes.
So here we go. Do you want to look at this? Or you also have the next document that I could put up too, that has the pickle we put them in, the catch-22.
Yeah.
But you want to go to that one?
That third document basically is a comparison as far as if it is enforceable to if it's not enforceable, and what offsets it, what makes it unenforceable. And that's where that third document I sent you comes into play, with the ramifications of what they do. And I did a presentation on this a few weeks ago. And basically, if Congress delegates its power to the president to declare war and emergencies, and under their definition of emergency is the same as declaring war. Well, that's violation of our U.S. Constitution. Only Congress can declare war, not the president. And if you notice, we're constantly in emergencies or constantly at war with something: war on drugs, war on guns, war on something. And so, this constant perpetuating war and emergencies is their smokescreen to try and keep us under this Trading with the Enemy Act, where they never had the authority to do so in the first place. So
we haven't had any actual wars that would pass for anything but an act of war, but it's not upon. Do you know what I mean? It's like we haven't had that. We were not in an actual war in Vietnam.
No, it was a police action.
It was a police action. It was a
cover for the CIA and drug running.
Yeah, there you go. Most of this goes back to the CIA, FBI, Fedsurrectionists, and all of you that are out there doing the wrong thing. There's going to be a day of judgment. Make no mistake about this. You've done the wrong thing, and you've still got a chance to turn yourselves around and do the right thing. But right now you're on the wrong side of history, and I don't think this is going to go well in the long-term plan. So here we go. So trading.
The two biggest industries of the United States corporation is drugs and human trafficking.
Yes, it is. Yep, it's our own government that's trafficking that fentanyl in with the open borders. It's our own government that's involved in human trafficking, HHS being probably one of the largest human trafficking organizations on the planet.
I can't understand how we shut the entire country down for COVID, but we can't shut the southern border down.
Right?
So, yeah.
They don't want to shut it down because it would shut down their little organized crime syndicate that they've got, their global organized crime syndicate that they got going on here. So can I read a few things from the chat a minute, as I want to acknowledge people a minute, and then we'll go back to this. So Rob, now Facebook share, you got a Facebook post in the chat, and Judicial Watch has a court case to enforce federal law on vote counts on day of voting, not more than a day. Sent the video to you, so we'll put that up later. And then Bravo, Smedley Butler should have done the coup and outed FDR. Hawks Design says, kudos, Rob now. Yes, Smedley Butler, are you familiar with that?
I am not.
Okay, we'll go into that at a later time. Maybe I'll have Rob on and he can talk about that a little bit, and we'll stay on track here a little bit. So, but good job there. Charlotte says, good morning to all of you. Charlotte says, trying to remove a Democrat trashy billboard put up at D19 and 96 East exit it is the crap of all crap, democracy or dictatorship, nuke Russia type things. So hang on a minute. I got some pop up here. Just a minute. Let's see. Nuke Russia, Ukraine, crap all over it. So yeah, there's still the Marxist stuff is still trying to sell us that we're a democracy. We are not. We are a republic, and we don't want war with anybody. We don't want war with Russia. We want to demonize anybody. Charlotte, I'll text Don after podcast for her to give you my phone number. Then I will give you my email. Okay, thanks, love. I appreciate that. Do that. Dearborn area. I am too seeing a lot of half-truths and downright fooled woke Christians causing division. I would say that too, because Christianity has become incredibly infiltrated. We're right now, I'm working on putting together the network of them, because there's a network. There is absolutely a network of the infiltrators within the organization, and I'm going to publish it with names because we need to see what we're dealing with here. Globalist hijack of the party. Anyway, just have to vet the heck out of people running for office. Shut your mind down to ads and vote. Also, without Whitmer is abusing, she calls it Whitnot, is abusing taxpayers' money, rent subsidy program. Yes, and it's called, one of them is called Sarah, and you want to see something messed up. That is it, because I had to confront this. Did you know this, that anybody can say, I'm having trouble paying my rent? They go to Sarah and they get money with no qualifications. They don't ask any questions. They just chip money to them. And it'll take, and right now with the evictions, you're an eviction of somebody who has done damage to other people. There's all sorts of things. They can break the law anytime. So a lot of evictions are taking 4 months or more. And that's a huge amount. Don't tell me you care about people and refuse to remove people who are a threat to the communities that they live in, because this is all part of that BLM, Antifa, domestic terrorism plot going on in this nation. Let's see. Hi, Mike. Good job from Charlotte. Usurpation clowns, gaslighting clowns, running for office. Mike Rogers is a clown. And Lev says, thank you, Donna. Mike, I've been part on John's Zoom for only a few months. Have you talked about land patents on there in the past? And then also, so we have defunded MSP and not local sheriff's office. So they put hours of operations on silly Americans needs to wake up. Church and family Bible and 2 witnesses. That's exactly what marriage should be. The government should not be involved in it, in my opinion, whatsoever. So, and that time, let's see, that time on rent subsidies in Michigan is over. I believe that to be true, and I would stand for anything that stopped rent subsidies in any way, shape, or form, because all we're doing is we're giving people the ability to live in a situation where they do not have to produce. We are basically, it's like housing. It's like putting them on a farm. That's what it is. Only they don't do anything.
Right.
I'm against it. Absolutely.
Yep.
We have to. So let's go back to this. So thank you for all your comments on there, guys. I really appreciate that. And one thing that you talked about land patents in the past.
Yeah, I have not been on John's. He does his thing on Wednesdays. I have not talked about land patents on there. I'm in the process of doing some on my own right now, and I don't go out and do a presentation on things until I know I have everything, all the bugs worked out of it. I streamline it so it's easy to understand and everybody can duplicate the process. So once I get all the bugs and the glitches and figure out because obviously the municipalities don't like that process and they try to fight it. But once I get through all that and get it streamlined to where it's, I get all the glitches out of it, then I will present it more in an actual presentation for everybody to see and understand. We've got some other things that we're doing relevant to that. And again, once we get these processes down, to where it's very easy to understand, then we're going to do more presentations on that. Our administrative process, we have pretty much got that down to a science now. And so those are things that we're going to be doing some presentations on here very soon. and showing people how to do an administrative process to go after public functionaries who usurp their authority, like judges or congressmen or whoever else. So, and hold them accountable. It's more than just going after the bonds. There's another process that is very effective in getting them to obey what they're supposed to do. If everybody would just, if these public functionaries would not usurp their authority, it wouldn't matter what party they're from. If they would follow and do what they're supposed to do, we wouldn't have any problems. A party wouldn't matter if they would just do and follow the Constitution like they're supposed to.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. And the people that are in office, I would say that there's quite a few of them that are working together against the population, against we the people, and it's intentional. It's absolutely intentional. We had a tax bill that the township was, I would say, hiding, and I found out about it from an outside source. It was a couple years old. We went down, and actually our CFO went down and talked to the township. It took 3 swipes going down there. I'm going to say swipes, maybe that's the wrong word, 3 times for him to go down there and try to get the information, because we had a paper that came in the mail from an outside source, never posted, never communicated with us, nothing. And all of a sudden an outside source says, because obviously we're on a list somewhere, says, looks like that you're going to be going into foreclosure and blah, foreclosure. I was like, this isn't even possible. Took us 3 times going to the township. And finally, the woman, 3 different times going and talking to him and going down there. And all of a sudden the woman goes, oh my gosh. And she found it, and it was hidden. You can't tell me that wasn't intentional. With all the developers around here that would love to get their hands on that property, I'm going to allege right now that was an intentional land grab, and they did it by hiding a tax bill.
And I know that as a builder, I was building in a township. I'm not going to say what one, but I get this tax bill for a house, brand new house. It was on 1 acre, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, this can't be right. So I went to the panel to contest it, and like, oh yeah, this is how we do things. 1 mile radius, yada yada. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. I said, this is what I paid for the property. This is what I have into it for the improvements. That should be your tax bill until I sell the house. It's never been sold. It's a brand new house. Nope, that's not how we're going to do it. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, we're going to settle this right now. I said, I'm going to lower your property values. Like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm building houses in this area. My VPs, my brother-in-law, his uncle, I listed everybody that's associated with me that are building the houses. I said, we're going to sell every house for $1. We're not going to lose a dime, and we're going to lower your property values. Half hour later, they complied with what I wanted. I said, this is the price of the property. This is the improvement. That's your tax base until the house sells. And they finally broke down and complied.
Well, and I think it's just extraordinary that you'll go head to head with them on this sort of thing, because what they're doing is they're price setting. Mm-hmm. And because I own a decent amount of property, and I've watched them tell me what the value of my properties are. They're determining the values of all real estate and property values through the townships, through the municipalities. They're literally price fixing to fix the tax rolls.
Yes.
And it's been going on for years and years and years.
Yep.
And that should be considered a criminal act, and it's an act of treason.
Yeah, when you're manipulating the system like that to that degree, it just again, that's usurping their authority. They don't have the power or authority to do what they're doing to begin with, and it's a money grab. It's all about money.
Yeah, we should like make a list of all the things that they've done to break the law. And we go through every single aspect. I think that thing would be like 9,000 pages long.
How about a list of everything they've done right? I think it'd be a lot shorter.
Yeah, that would be about right. So I kind of like that idea. Did you want to go through that again before we close today, or you want me to pull that page up again, or do you want to revisit this another time? Okay, we'll pull it up again.
Yeah, okay. Basically what this shows is if Congress delegates this power to the president, Congress is committing treason. For the president to declare war and emergencies, he's acting as a dictator. The U.S. Constitution is suspended. Well, if the Constitution is suspended, how can we have a government, and how do we have government officials? They cease to exist if the Constitution doesn't exist.
Yeah, they just negated their existence, didn't they? If
Right.
they suspend the Constitution, they don't
Now,
even. Oh, that's brilliant! I didn't think of that.
If all laws are suspended, then how can anybody be charged with a crime?
That's brilliant.
Americans, if we, the American people, are enemy combatants, well, shouldn't we actually then look at them the same way? Shouldn't we be taking them as prisoners of war? Just a thought. If all property is owned by the state, then how do they charge us property taxes? Because only the owners are supposed to pay the property taxes. Something to think about. The gold and silver was confiscated. How do we have gold and silver in our possession here today if that's being enforced? So again, and the licenses, how is a license required if there's no Constitution? If the Constitution is suspended, there's no laws. How do you enforce any of this stuff? So that's where I was going with that part. This next part, laws that are repugnant to the Constitution, they're void. The Act of 33 is an act that's unconstitutional. State v. Butler. That was a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, 1935. It was 6-3. Congress delegates powers to the president. Well, they can't do that. That's where that Poultry v. U.S. comes into play. There was a 1935 case, and that was a 9-0 ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court that Congress could not delegate those authorities to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Could not do it. The president can declare war and emergencies. What's a violation of Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the U.S. Constitution? President suspends, let's see what this is. That's again, president usurping his authority. There's Norton v. Shelby right there. All laws are suspended. Well, then, can't be done because we, the sovereigns, are the ones who write the laws. Downs v. Bidwell, 1901. All Americans are enemies of the state and of the government. It's a violation of their oath. It's an act of treason, Article 3, Section 3. All property owned by the state, well, then the property rights and possession must be returned to us if the act is not being enforced. Same thing with the gold and silver. The national debt, they keep talking about, the national debt is something that our kids or grandkids have to pay. No. If Proclamation 2039, Proclamation 2040, and this act are void, then that debt is the money that they borrowed from us that they have to pay back to us, we the people. And they have to do so in lawful money, meaning gold and silver. That money is owed to us. That's money they borrowed from us. So that's not something we have to pay back. It's something they have to pay back. And that's probably why this whole cloak and dagger thing with the Trading with the Enemy Act is in place. That's probably why Mike Rogers walked out and not wanted to answer that question, because it would reveal the truth. So the fact that commerce is illegal, well, we have the right of unlimited contract, Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1.5. And the license requirements, no license is required. And if everybody, step back and take a look at this, the Bar Association gave us the working model. The Bar Association is a PMA. It's a private membership association, not bound by state or federal regulations. Turn your business into a PMA. You're not longer bound by their rules and regulations. Use their own tactics against them.
Do you have PMA documentation that people could use to file as a PMA?
I've been asked that a lot. I have not put something together at that for that level. I just haven't had time right now. I'm going to try and put something together on something like that because I get a lot of people asking me about that.
I believe that Dave Jose has done that too. So here's a comment. We are all looking forward to the letter to demand voting machines and tabulators be stopped to present to our township councils at monthly meetings. Well, we're working on it. John and I are going to hit it again tomorrow. So I think this is going to be epic. I'd love for you to be jumping in on this too, Mike, because you're incredibly knowledgeable. Didn't the U.S. become incorporated in 1871?
Yes. In the Washington, D.C., because they had to have a place of business. All businesses have to have a place of business. And under that act is where Washington, D.C. became the place of business.
There you go. Let's see. Thank you, Mike from Leb. And Charlotte says, public functionaries give their authority over to NGOs and committees. They raised my son's property taxes and my daughter's $600 in Byron Center Township. My son has 10 acres. My daughter has a lot in downtown Byron Center. And Leb says, have to go. We'll listen to the replay. Thank you, Donna and Mike. Oh, thanks for listening, everybody out there. And thank you so much for contributing to the chat. So anything else you want to say here before we jump off, and then stay on when I end the broadcast, because I would like to talk to you a little bit more, because this is fun. This is incredibly interesting to me. I think this is something that we are learning as we go, but there's so many nuances to this. And different people that do work in different areas, like such as yourself, you're brilliant. I love this.
Well, there's so much to this, and people get overwhelmed by how much there's involved in all of this. And I remind people of Douglas MacArthur, World War II. He was head of the Pacific Campaign. And now there's millions of islands that the Japanese controlled in the Pacific. And his philosophy was, you don't try and liberate all the islands. All you need to do is liberate specific islands, and the others shall fall. So that's the approach we have to take. We can't allow this whole thing to get overwhelming to us. We have to concentrate on what specific areas that we can address to put a stop to them, and the rest of their spider web of deceit will fall with it. So going after the Trading with the Enemy Act is huge, because it involves all our property rights. It involves the licensing issue. I mean, if this judge in Ann Arbor had ruled in my favor at the time regarding the licensing issue, Laura would have been out of business the very next day, because no one would have been required to have a license anymore. It would have been done. But she tried to save face, tried to save their position, and so now I'll appeal this, and we'll go up the ladder, and we'll see how far we get with this.
Well, and I'm going to go back to these ridiculous proposals that are misleading in headlines and such. When the whole mechanism behind this is flawed, because we're going to write a proposal to give to public functionaries who have proven they don't care and they will not uphold the law anyway. So we're once again taking the action and putting it back on those sitting in the seats of power. They're going to just laugh at us, even if we passed it. And even if the language was correct, the mechanism is wrong. And we're passing the buck on doing what we need to do as we, the people, to hold them accountable and actually get off our sofas, get in the game, and go actually talk to the people, holding them accountable. They're not going to hold themselves accountable. It's just like asking them to audit themselves. What are they going to do? I'm going to audit myself to find my own criminality? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to hide it. And they're going to hide it with all their buddies. If we send something up there like this, they're going to be laughing in our faces, like axe my tax. And they're going to find a way to hijack this and centralize all the tax structure to the state away from local. Guaranteed. And if this gets passed, everybody can look at this at this moment in time that, oh my gosh, Donna was right.
Yep.
That's going to be a painful admission for as many people.
That's why I don't support it. There's other ways of doing this that we don't need to mess with the Constitution. Every time you open that door, you're opening Pandora's box for these bar attorneys to get in there and foobar everything even more than what it is.
Well, and I'm a fan of going in there and nullifying about 90% of the laws and the policies in the departments that are on the books right now, because under Norton versus Shelby County, they don't exist. Mm-hmm. And they have so far usurped their authority. They have not stayed in their lane. They just continue to grow it for their own purpose. They're parasite class. Yeah. So let's say a prayer a minute, Mike, and then we're going to say goodbye for the day, and then have you back on another day. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for our wonderful guests today, for Jeff and for Mike, and for all the people that are out there listening to this. It's just totally amazing for Shayne and for all the people that are listening and contributing and learning as you're bringing us into a new reality, which is that we, the people, we have to be doing our own business and being about your business of making sure that this country is being run correctly. We're sorry that we turned our back on you, that we allowed your presence to be removed from all of those institutions that we trusted at some point in time. And it's a shame that we acknowledge that most of them have been infiltrated and do not serve your purposes anymore. And we're very sorry that we let this happen, but no more. We're getting educated, and you're bringing us through this, and we have great hope and expectation in where you're going with this, because you are good all the time. We're willing to follow you, and we can't wait to see what you're going to do next, because it's a very exciting time for us, watching you being acknowledged in your rightful position, and ours is under you in all things, and following you as your children. We thank you so very much, and we thank you for Resurrection Day yesterday. What a beautiful day, and our hope and all of our hope is in you, and our faith is in you, your character, that you're always good all the time. And you've been a great friend to us. We want to be a friend to you also. We love you. In the name of Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen. So with that said, here you go, guys. Go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com. I am the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States. And I would love to have a debate with the rightful president of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, who won the election but was cheated out of it by a fraudulent election, maladministration by a bunch of traitors, cheats, and thieves. So with that said, we love you all. There's a lot of us fighting out there. Come and fight with us. It's your duty. It's all of our duties. It's not Mike's problem. It's not Donna's problem. It's not our problem to solve the problems of this nation. It's all of our problem. And we're all going to have to stand together with this to right it, and walk arm in arm as we tell them what's going to happen, because they're criminals. And it's going to take some really good people that are going to stand strong. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless America. And God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to be on tomorrow with John Tater and creating that document to go to our townships to remove the machines. We're going to continue to even this out so that everyone feels like they know exactly what to do. We might even do like mock trials for going into the townships and such, so people know how this is supposed to work and what your standing is as truly as we the people who is in a republic over the top of the public functionaries and structure. So with that said, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.